workshop series of world-class professor program. So this event is fully supported by Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology through the WCU or World Class University funding granted to our lecturer from Department of Chemistry Education. She is Dr. Helly Siti. So today is our first workshop, and the next workshop I think will be conducted next week. And in today's workshop, I will be hosting. So I'm Vidya Vina Nuraini from Department of Chemistry Education, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. In today's workshop, there will be two sessions. The first one, there will be two speakers from Nottingham University, Malaysia, who will deliver the talk about brief introduction into the scientific paper. And this will be delivered by Professor Paulo Show. Good afternoon, Professor. And also the second speaker, he is Dr. Apuraf from Nottingham University, Malaysia as well. He will deliver the talks about writing skill in scientific paper and maybe how to improve a writing skill, because I know writing is not easy, writing is difficult, and I think writing is everyone's problem. And for me, personally, writing is the most difficult thing to do compared to speaking, reading, or listening. So I better choose reading or listening than writing. But however, as lecturer or academia, we have to write everything we do, everything we research, so everyone or public can know what science or what actually we do. So hopefully after joining this workshop, and we can gain a lot of information and knowledge on how to write, and we get better understanding on scientific paper. And the second one, the second session, there will be coaching clinic. So there will be 4 lecturers from Department of Chemistry Education there that will assist participants in reviewing participants' article, or maybe improving the article. So for participants, please make sure that you already prepare your article or your draft. And all right, before we jump to the talks, begin with Professor Paulo Show, there will be brief or short introduction from Dr. Helly Siti about this workshop series. Please welcome Dr. Helly.
Thank you, Bu Vidya. Actually, the brief introduction about this workshop has already delivered by Bu Vidya. Now, let me say deeply appreciated to the speaker that has already kindly agreed to be a speaker in this workshop session. First session of this workshop, because still we have another workshop that will be conducted on 9th of November with the same speaker. So hopefully all of you still can join in the next session, because in the next session workshop, still we will continue this workshop as part of the whole workshop session series. Again, thank you for Professor Show and also Dr. Apura for being a speaker in this workshop. Hopefully, personally, not only me expecting this kind of, as Bu Vidya said, that writing is not easy. Hopefully, this workshop can give inspiration and also can improve our skill in writing, because as academic staff and also as a student, still we have to write not only for our final thesis to finish our program, but also still we have to try to communicate what the idea we had to other by writing. So again, thank you, Professor Shaw and Dr. Akula, and please enjoy this workshop session, and please grab all the skill that have been delivered by the speaker, and hopefully this session can improve our skill in writing. Thank you, Bu Vidya.
All right, thank you, Dr. Heli Siti, for short introduction of this workshop. So the workshop will be a continuation. So make sure that you all also join another workshop. And now we will move to another agenda. There will be a talk from Professor Paulo Show. But before he deliver his talk, I would like to introduce you to our first speaker. Right. Maybe we can see the CV of Professor Paulo Show. Right. Please kindly wait. Okay. All right. Yeah, while we are waiting, we have Professor Paulo Show. So he arrives in this Zoom meeting earlier before we start, before 1 p.m. So, okay. Or maybe, we apologize for the delay. Or maybe the Professor Paulo Show, could you please introduce yourself before you deliver the talk? Yeah, we
Yes,
really apologize for that. Yeah.
No problem, no problem.
All right, please welcome Professor Paulo Show.
Okay. Thank you so much for your kind arrangement. Let me share my screen right now.
Sure.
Okay. All right, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your kind arrangement. So basically, today I will share with you a bit the scientific paper. Yeah. So just a brief introduction about myself. Currently, I'm the technology advisor for high value and high tech agriculture Malaysia from the Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia. I also rank world rank #1 in microwave technology. So whenever you search microwave technology, you can see my name there. I also president of International Bioprocess Society Malaysia. I'm also a director of Food Processing Research Center in Nottingham, Malaysia. So when there's any food processing research that definitely will come to see, then I will have to delegate this job to some of my research. And also a co-director of Future Food Malaysia. As we know, we have a lot of future food in coming soon. So I'm one of the co-director working in this Beacon Excellent. I just got promoted become full professor last year. So it's relatively a young professor. So I have a lot to learn from you guys. I also got a quick PhD in bioprocess engineering. So I used 2 years to finish my PhD. So it's really fast progress in this PhD. Right after my PhD, I further another degree, we call it PGCH, which is postgraduate higher education degree. So with this degree, right, I am eligible to teach university. So I also chartered chemical engineer, which is IChemE, right? I also a professional engineer in board of technology, board of engineer Malaysia, also professional technology Malaysia, board of technologies. That's why you can see the title with IR and TS. IR is professional engineer and TS is a project technologist. All right, so let me quickly go through my research area. cover from bioprocess from upstream to downstream. So also from separation and purification engineering. So I developed a few methods called liquid biophase system. So I believe you have time, I can share more with you what is liquid biophase system. My research area also cover a lot in biorefinery, especially in microalgae, because microalgae we have bioprocess, biomass, biorefining, and bioproducts. All right, so a little bit about my research achievement. I published a lot of paper, a lot of fundings. Yeah, top 2 world scientist research is Stanford list. Yeah, APEC of Science Prize for Innovation, Research and Education Malaysia Award, 6 Global Peer Review Award 2019, Young Scientist Award from Malaysia, most read and top done research paper, and Daisuke Award given by the Society for Biotech Japan, JSPS fellowship, which is from Japan Society for Promotion of Science Japan, Elsevier Top Reviewer Award, Top 100 ASEAN Scientists, and ASEAN Rising Scientist Award, and winner of Young Researcher from ICAMI, as well as Platinum Research Award from Research Nottingham. All right, so I also very actively become editor board members and also editor in some of journal, example, hazardous material, bioresource technology, environmental pollution, chemistry, environmental research, scientific report, bioengineer, processes, and I also editor-in-chief of this current nutrients and food science. Right, so today for workshop for world-class professor 2021, I will talk briefly go through what is a introduction in scientific paper. So we always start with the outline, which is 5W1 each. So 5W, why we start with why we need to publish paper, then what is the title, what is the life cycle of a publication. So when we need to publish paper, where to publish, who is the main author in the publication, and how to define a quality publication. So today, just a brief introductions. Of course, I will talk more about it in my next workshop on 9th of November. Right, so why we need to publish? Okay, is whether it's PhD requirement, supervisor want you to publish, or is this an intellectual challenge, you want to have self-certifications, financial incentive, maybe you have some bonus from your university, right? Future job or promotion, especially this is for PhD students, or maybe there's other reason. Right, so quick facts to share with you. In university, we have 2 main functions. The first function is UG, undergrad, which transmit knowledge, which is to transfer knowledge from lecturers to the students. While in PG, another function is to create knowledge, because PG, we always encourage students to challenge the knowledge they're available. Right, knowledge actually is meaningless, in my opinion, unless we share it out. So that's why we need to have university, which is to transmit knowledge, as well as to PG to create more knowledge. Okay, by the way, how to share, right? So how to share is through publications, right? So you can see as a researcher, we conduct research in order to share. Then for knowledge bank, which is a basic research, we store inside a publisher, So this is a knowledge bank. So apply research, which is apply in the society, industry, and government. We apply the policy, apply the applications. So we can apply research. Right. Please understand the research life cycle first before you have the motivation to write a paper. Right. So what is the life cycle of application? As just a quick one. So we need to start with the writing, submit, then publish. Actually, very straightforward, right? Whenever you start it, then you have to restart again. So this is the life cycle of applications. So what is the life cycle of applications? So of course, you have four functions, 4 options. First one, of course, very real one, abstract for publication access. This is unless you have a second revision or third revision. For the first submission, definitely very rare. Minor revision, meaning that not required further peer review. After you get minor revision, then the next thing as an editor will accept it as. Then the third one is the major revision, adding another few round of review is required. Then the last one, which is not what you want, which is reject due to unfit. All right, so this is a review result for the first time. So when we need to publish, right, my opinion is as soon as possible. So after you feel is ready, if not, it's updated, because you're not sure what is happening outside your country, outside your area. So whatever you're doing right now, so maybe the same time somebody doing in the other lab. So you do know, so you are competing with someone that you do know. So as soon as you get ready, a lot of people, they like to, They like to publish it whenever they are ready, whenever they are writing the thesis. So I don't think this is the correct way. So I always advise my students, whenever you are finished, one chapter, you finish it, publish it as soon as possible. Right? Don't wait until you certify you're happy with that, only publish. Right. Where to publish? Yes, as you know, where to publish is few type, which is non-reference journal, local peer review journal, non-ISI, ISI journal, and top journal. So I will talk more details about what is this in my next workshop. So this is a brief introductions. So where to publish again? So of course you can publish in your Facebook, IG, YouTube, website, conference book, but there is different level of applications. Right, so how to choose the right journal? This one I will cover in details, how to choose the right journal, because every journal they have different requirement, different standard. So you need to choose the right journal so that the reject rate will be low. Okay, so have you read the GFA which is a guide for author. So make sure you read the guide for author carefully, because you don't know whether your paper is suitable for that journal or not. Has the journal published article similar to yours? So you need to answer this question. Have you always cite this journal in your reference? So another question you need to answer. What is your supervisor and other people's opinion when you want to select this journal? So you need to get an opinion and advice from your others as well. Right. So who is the main author in publication? So normally what I'm saying, corresponding author, who is normally someone with a permanent position. Seldom you will see a student, because student only stay with the university for a few years. After a few years, maybe student will go to another university. So normally corresponding author is someone with a permanent position. Normally is supervisor with relative longer stay than a student in an organization. Someone who know how to answer if reader have inquiry when reading the paper. So who arrange authorship? How to arrange authorship? Do you know that is authorship contribution form? All this one I will share more details in my coming workshop. Okay. How to define a quality publication? Yes, this one just a quick one. So we have major commercial publisher, major professional organization, and university-based publisher, right? And as well as we have other small scale publisher, right? So I will share more detail, because in my next coming workshop, I will share with you how to select the top journal, how to define a good journal as well, publisher. So how to define a quality publisher, which depends on impact factors, which is ISI, then impact factor, then you can see this isinet.com for details. Okay, how to define quality publisher? Start from this brief of the topic, audience, covered by audience, discipline, research, always compare factor in the same field, compare across different fields is meaningless. This is some of the objective. Right. So I think I'm not covering this for today because I only given 10 minutes. I will cover this in my next slide. All right. So thank you so much.
Right, thank you so much, Professor Paul Lokshaw. That's quite a brief introduction on scientific paper, where we can learn about the 5W and 1H. Whenever you write your article and then you want to publish your article, remember of the 5W 1H. For example, when to publish. So whenever you are ready, just publish. If not, it will be outdated. And it's also important to choose or to select the journal you want to publish your paper. And maybe Professor Paul Lokshaw will discuss more about it in the next workshop. So thank you, Professor Paul Lokshaw, who already gave us introduction or enlightenment about scientific paper. And for all participants, I would like to remind you that if you have any questions, you can type your questions in the chat room, or you can also raise your hand at the Q&A session. And the discussion will be conducted after the second speaker. So now let's move to another agenda. There will be talk from Dr. Apurav. Good afternoon, Dr. Apurav.
Afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's very clear. I hope you are in good condition, so you can give us more about how to improve our writing skill, for example, and how to write scientific paper if I know nothing. So please, Dr. Apuraf, you can give your talk, and but before that, please also to introduce yourself to the audience, because I know that some audiences haven't seen you before. So please welcome Dr. Apuraf.
Okay, let me share my screen. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is staying safe and doing well. Today, I'm going to talk more about scientific paper writing skill. Before I begin, let me thank Dr. Haley for the invitation to present and try to give my knowledge and what I have gained in the past few years to everyone. And also thank you to Dr. Shaw to give me the opportunity to speak as well. So good afternoon, everyone. Today, in this workshop series 1, I'm going to talk more on how do we write a scientific paper, what skills are required. This presentation is quite short, so I would want more audience to engage so that they can ask me questions and I can give specific answers, maybe share some of my experience as well. That in that way we can have a good talk. So about me, I completed my MNG from University of Nottingham in 2017, and my degree was chemical with environmental engineering. After that, I moved on to do 1-year job in India. That's my home country. And since then, I have joined back to University of Nottingham again as PhD student under Professor Shaw. And I am also the research assistant in the same university from the past 3 years. Until now, I have published more than 7 first authored articles and in total 20 articles in high impact factor journals. So as Prof. Shaw mentioned just now, why publications are important and when you should do it. You shouldn't wait for it. You shouldn't wait, okay, I will finish all my experiments, then I will think about writing. No, that's not the correct approach. The correct approach is whenever you get some set of results, let's say you do an experiment and you realize that, okay, this experiment is over, then you have a complete set of data that can be published. Because now we are in a very fast-paced world. You might think that whatever idea that you have right now in your mind is very novel, but within few months, you will see that there are a lot of people with similar ideas who have done the work, who have already published the work. So you don't want to fall behind, you don't want to lag. And once someone else publishes that work, you cannot publish it again because that's overlapping. So why do you need the publication? Because you don't want to overlap with others' research. And how do you ensure that? You ensure that by publishing your research in online journals and books in forms of journal articles and book chapters. The published work also serves as a platform for the next researcher to refer to your work and maybe try to optimize or improve. Or even when you are doing some work, you want to optimize the previous work that you did, then you refer to the same publication that you had done. And that's how research progresses. That's how we have been progressing from petroleum to biofuel to the next source of fuel. So what are the main types of publications that we have? The most basic ones or most general ones are original article and review paper. Original article is basically an original work that you did. That's basically your experiments. If you do an experiment, you have a methodology, you have your results, your data, and then your conclusion. Review paper is basically summarizing and trying to criticize others' work and find out small research gaps that you can find for future improvement. So as I mentioned, review paper, they are considered as one of the most condensed and critical review of a specific topic. And it's usually written to demonstrate the progress. So usually review papers are written every 2 to 3 years by even the same author, so that they want to check with the progress of what was done 3-4 years ago, what has been done now, and what do we need to do in the future. It mostly contains the introduction followed by the main body, wherein you write all the review of previous work that you have read or that you have researched until now. And then the challenges that are faced currently and what's the future recommendation. Normally, a critical review should have at least 100 references. So when I say 100 references, that doesn't mean you can refer to a lot of articles and just write maybe one single line. When I say 100 references, that means you have studied those 100 references. You have written down what is the extract in that paper, and you have mentioned it and criticized it in your own review paper. And that's the reason usually review articles go for more than 10,000 words, and they have few figures and tables which summarize all the data. Because the review article consists of 10,000 plus words, there is a shorter version that is called mini review that can also be seen in journal publications currently. What's an original article? Original article is basically based on the results of your experiment. It will have an introduction where you write the problem statement, why you did this experiment. Then it will have a section of materials and methods, wherein you will write what was the materials that involved and how did you do the process for your experiment, and maybe refer to the previous works that were done before. Then is the results and the discussion of the results, and you compare your result to the other researchers' work and try to find out small gaps for future improvement, followed by the ending, that's the conclusion. And original research articles are normally short. They are not as long as review papers, and they range somewhere around 3,000 to 6,000 words. This word limit differs from journal to journal. So as previously mentioned, you have to make sure that you read the guide for authors very carefully to know what the journal actually wants you to write and how much. A lot of journals have restrictions on the number of words, the number of figures, the number of tables. So yeah. Apart from original article, there is also a shorter article that is called short communications, which actually contains clinical studies, wherein you don't require a full paper because clinical studies are always ongoing. They don't stop. There is no stop. So once you do a clinical study and you write down what were the observation with whatever number of participants you had, and then you keep on continuing with this information. That's called short communication. So as I mentioned before, you need to publish in a high impact factor journal. But what is impact factor? And why do people say that, oh, you need to publish in high impact factor, go higher, go higher? What does this number or impact factor mean? It's basically calculated by an organization. Its name is Clarivate. They try to find out the yearly citations or references by any journal in the past 2 years. And accordingly, they calculate the impact factor. So the higher the impact factor is, the higher quality articles or the higher citations of these articles are. Citation is basically when you refer to someone's article, you write it in your own paper and you publish it. Then the main article gets one citation. So like this, if your article is cited a lot of times, that shows the quality of your paper. And that's how these high impact factor journals, their articles are cited more. That means the quality of these papers are high. So to do that, you need to have an excellent research experiment and the methodology, but it doesn't ensure that you will publish in a high impact factor journal. So how do you make sure that you can publish in a high impact factor journal? You need to do good research. You need to have a solid research methodology. You need to formulate the important research questions. You have to try and get novel results, something that hasn't been done before. And the most important one is do not work alone. Always look for collaboration, because that's how we can improve. And the last but not the least, you have to write the article very systematically and avoid grammatical errors. What else should we consider while writing in an high impact factor journal? The paper has to have the paper has to be very meaningful and should have a message. Let's say if I'm a reader and I have no idea about the topic and I read the paper, I should be able to understand. I should be able to understand, okay, the authors did this, they got this, and this is what they are looking for. It should also have a very well structured and a flow. So once an article has a lot of sections, so you have to make sure that from each section to the next section, there is a flow. You cannot say that, okay, X did this, Y did this, and Z did this. You have to relate them. You have to make sure that there is a flow. Once you're reading, you know, oh, so X did this one. That's the reason Y had to do this one. And that's the reason Z reacted like that. That's how you ensure that there is a flow in the manuscript or in the paper. The cover letter also has to be informative. Usually cover letters are written very short and people try to neglect it, but you have to make sure that you give as much information in a condensed way in cover letter as possible, so that the editor of the journal, whoever reads the cover letter, knows that, okay, this is what this paper contains, and I think it fits in my journal, so I will let the authors submit to my journal. And the last but not the least to know that is you should have patience, a lot of patience, because journal publications are quite slow. It needs at least 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years to go through. So you cannot be impatient. You have to have a lot of patience, and there'll be a lot of rejections as well. So rejections are a part of journal publications, because currently there are so many journals and there are so many papers that get submitted to each journal. They want to make sure that they get the best quality papers. So what you have to do is try to make sure that your papers are very, very close to what they are looking for, what their journal criteria is, and whether you can fit your paper to their journal criteria. So how does this editorial process work, the journal publication work? Usually the authors will submit the article to the journal, and every journal has their main editor. So this editor will assess this article that you submitted. That's where the cover letter is important, because it mentions what your article contains. Let's say you submit a review paper, 10,000 words, that's more than 40 pages. The editor doesn't have so much time to read and go through the 40 pages. So what he does, he reads the cover letter. If the cover letter is short, dense, and perfectly matches the criteria of the journal, the editor will think that, okay, yeah, I think this paper can be submitted. Then he will send it to the reviewers. Usually the reviewers are people, researchers all around the world, who basically review articles by submitted to the journals. And these reviewers are basically expert in this topic. The reason for this review is so that your paper can be criticized and can be improved before it is published in the journal. So that's the reason, once the reviewers say that, okay, I have reviewed this paper and I submit my review work, to the journal. And this review will be assessed by the editor. Once the editor thinks that, okay, this review is not good enough, the reviewer needs to do more, needs to criticize more, he will send it back to the reviewer. If he thinks that, okay, I have gotten enough data now, and I think that there is a revision required, then it will be sent back to the authors for the revision. And once the authors submit the revision, the cycle goes on again. If the editor thinks that, okay, the authors have done enough revision they have done enough work to prove that this work is okay to be published, then it goes into the acceptance, it goes through the production and is published. If the editor thinks that it's not good enough, it's straight away rejected. So you can see that there are two ways to get your article rejected. And the chances of this are higher when your article quality or your structure, your grammatical mistakes are more. How do you find a journal? So as previously mentioned, there are different types of publishers. So the most common ones are Elsevier, Wiley's, Taylor and Francis, and Springer Nature. And each of these journals, these publishers have their own website for finding journals. So you can refer to it. If you want, you can take a photo of this slide and maybe later on you can check, or you can just Google it out, how to find a journal in Elsevier publisher. And this link will pop up. In all these links, you can see how you can search for a publication. For example, I can show you right now. Let's say allow me to share my screen again. Just a minute here. Okay, can you see my screen now?
It's still in your previous slide about, yeah. Oh.
Okay, all right. We'll continue now. So let's say this is for Elsevier. Once you click that, you can open and you can see that this will link to a web page that every journal has, wherein you can search for different journals that you need. It's taking some time to load. Anyway, I will continue. So as I mentioned before, every publisher has their own website to search for journals. And in these links, what you can do is you can write down your probable title, your abstract, your keywords, and try to filter out the journals that you need. That's how you can search for a specific journal that you want. There are other ways to find a journal that is suitable for you. What are those? One is you check the papers that you refer to. Most of the time, you will find a connection between the journal that papers you refer to. For example, let's say you are in biochemical engineering. A lot of papers will be found in bioresource technology, process biochemistry. There is biochemical engineering journal. There is chemical engineering journal. So these journals are the most common for this field. Let's say you're in renewable energy. You will find energy or renewable energy. These are the journal names for this different topic. So accordingly, you can know which journal you want to submit to. You can also filter out the conference journal papers in your citations and see if you're interested in it. The other method is to check by the Google Scholar. Open Google Scholar and check for the titles or the papers that you refer to. And you can understand from your papers what is the journal you want to submit to. Let's see if, yes, okay. So as you can see, this is where the journal finder takes you to, wherein you can find your journals. You can enter your title, you can write a paper abstract, you can write the keywords and the field that you are looking for. Once you write all these data, then you can find journals. say, all right, biochemical engineering. My field of research, biochemistry. Okay, then I go to find my journals. As you can see, there are different filters that it gives. There is journal that offers subscription, open access. Okay, and it will give you a list. For example, you can see biochemical engineering journal. It gives the scores and then why it matches your selection. And then you can check their scope. If you think that your paper is very close to this journal scope, then you can submit to this journal. And that's how you can search for different journals online. Okay, I will continue up here. All right. So now we come to the second part of this talk. How do you structure a journal article? Because most of the time what happens is, okay, we know that we have to submit to this journal. My supervisor said, okay, please submit to this journal, this paper. But once you know that, you have to still write your journal article. And how do you structure your journal article? Sometimes what happens is you are very clueless. You have no idea what to do, how to write. So the best way to refer back is try to check online. Go on Google Chrome, just type, how do I write a journal article? You will find a lot of articles. You will find a lot of YouTube links. And that's how you can understand. Because until and unless you write, until and unless you start, you will not know how to do it. For example, we have two types of journal articles. One is review paper and one is original article. The review paper is usually as an abstract, as an introduction, the main body that can be divided into 3, 4, 5 sections. Then there is challenges and future prospect, and there is conclusion. The review paper, in a review paper, the main body can differ. There are different subsections that you can do. But in an original article, these sections are must, and they always follow the same order. That is abstract, introduction, materials and methodology, results, discussion, and conclusion. What's an abstract? Abstract should go straight to the point. You shouldn't write anything else apart from what you did. What are you doing in this study? How are you doing it? What was the outcome? Why this outcome? And the conclusion. To give you an example of an abstract, you can see here. So in this first example here, you can see that this was basically a paper with Dr. Healy that we published last year. So in the abstract, it is clearly mentioned that what are we doing in this study? Spirulina contains various pigments. Phycocyanin is in abundance. Due to its instability, we want to utilize this. The utilization is less. Okay. So what are we doing in this study? We are modifying something. How are we doing it? We are doing by formation with designated different alterations. Then what was the results? The results was that the modification showed stabilization improvements. And what is the future prospect? This study suggests that the modification of phycocyanin can increase photostability. Simple. An abstract should be short and precise and concise. The longer the abstract, its meaning gets lost. There are some journals who have word limit on an abstract. For example, bioresource technology. It has a word limit of 150 words. So as you can see here in this example, I was only able to cover a few things. And that is what is important. You have to make sure, you have to choose what is important to be written in an abstract. Introduction. What is an introduction? It's an introduction for the audience to know your subject. What are you trying to present today? What are you trying to show in your whole manuscript? Introduction usually lays the foundation of your whole paper. If you write your introduction really, really well, then the audience is interested to know, okay, so what happens next? What's the methodology? What's the result? What's the discussion? That's why introduction is very, very important. And you have to make sure that you open your introduction, you write your introduction in a way that it will attract the reader. So how you do that? You include some statistics. You tell them why this topic is important and how important is it. You describe the past literature as well. This is very important. You have to make sure that you describe and you tell them what has happened before. The way to do that is you start from a bigger picture and then you narrow it down slowly. For example, my field is biodiesel from microalgae or extracting proteins from microalgae. A lot of the papers that I wrote, I started with hunger. Why the current world is hungry or has a lot of hunger problem, and how that can relate to microalgae, and how proteins from microalgae can help to reduce this hunger. So you start from a very big picture and you try to narrow it down slowly. And then you come to the main problem. And that's where you attract the audience attention. When you come to this problem and you make sure that you highlight how important this problem is, you have to be very critical about it. And after you do that, you write how you're going to solve it and how the study that you did is going to solve this problem. Make sure that you write it in a way that you're very confident. And you have to explain it in different sections if necessary. The next comes the literature review. If you are writing a review paper, it can be very, very tricky. It can be very slow sometimes because you get lost. As I mentioned before, you want to write a paper with 100 references. Knowing those 100 references is really, really hard. Even for someone who is a full-time student, keeping those 100 references in mind is impossible. So it's very complex to write a review paper. So there is a way how you can simplify this process. I will mention it in the next slide later on. So what you do is you draw a table, a matrix, and you make sure that you tabulate whatever you find out. You start by searching articles. You search articles that are in Google Scholar, and that's more than enough. You just need to check what your topic of review paper is, and you start searching for the articles. Then you will roughly know the trend of what the previous articles are. On that knowledge, you write an outline. Write an outline of what you want, what you're going to cover in introduction. What's your main body? What's the section name? What's the subsection name? What you want to cover in that subsection. And like this, you make an outline. You make sure that your supervisor or the corresponding author, he knows what you're working on, and they might have some ideas or some inputs in that outline. In this outline, once you know what you want to write in a review paper, your mind is clear. Now you know, okay, I want this, I want this, I want this. Then you start searching specific papers in this field. And 1 to 2 articles, or if you have the strength, if you have the concentration, you can go for more. And then you search for all the articles, try to find articles in a high impact factor journal. So every time you search for in Google Scholar, you try to note down the journal name. You search for the journal name in the website for impact factor and try to write down the impact factor as well. So what happens is after you do this, you will get a rough trend of all the journals because there are very few high impact factor journals in the same field. So there is a rough trend that will develop in your mind, and you will understand, okay, this is article high impact factor, this article is a low impact factor. How do you define high and low? There is difference to every single person's limit. For example, I'm starting out, I'm a PhD student. I feel impact factor more than 2, 3 is high enough for me. I consider that as a high impact factor and I start writing. If, let's say, I'm a professor, I have reached to a certain extent, I feel high impact factor is more than 10, 15, that is high. Below that is low. So it depends from person to person. You need to understand and know your limit. After you do this, you try to read articles, and once you read an article, you make sure that you take out all the information from that article right there itself. You don't think that, okay, this is an interesting fact, let me go through the next article. I go through the next article, I forget what the interesting fact was. So how do you make sure that that doesn't happen? As I mentioned before, you make a table, a literature review matrix, wherein you write down the author name, the date, what was the work that was done, what was the research questions, the hypothesis of this paper, what was the methodology, the results and the analysis that was done by that author, what was the conclusion of this paper and the future prospects. And you can also keep a column to write down the impact factor of this paper. So what happens is, when you draw this table, you make a matrix, you make a big table with author name and what this paper contains. Then once you have this, you don't have to think about, oh, I referred to this paper, it had this. You don't need to, because you have written it down, everything. All you need to do is take this matrix, this table, write down in words. As I mentioned, don't save the articles for later, because very likely you will just close that tab and it will be gone. Although it was information that was useful, but then now you don't have that anymore. So all this literature matrix, once you write in a daily basis, and in 2 weeks, you will have a complete matrix. You will have a lot of papers that you have already referred to. And you can adopt whichever search you want to do. You want Google Scholar, you want to go to individual researchers page and try to find out. You want to just Google search it. You can do whichever way that you want to do. The most important thing for review paper is make sure you limit your search to past 3 to 5 years only. Because by the time you finish writing the review paper and it is published, it's going to take you 1 to 2 years more. So by that time, your data shouldn't be more than 5 years old. A lot of review papers currently are rejected because the data is gone. So you have to make sure that the data or the research that you refer to is new. The second most important tip or trick, I would say, is the graphics that you use in your paper has to be really, really attractive. Right now, a lot of journals are looking for very beautiful illustrative images, figures, graphical abstracts, so that can attract more younger mindset. That's the reason you have to make sure that all your tables, your figures that you utilize, try to find some software that can beautify the drawings rather than just a single bar chart or a flow diagram. Lastly, everyone knows that everyone have their own priority. They have their own job. Some have full-time jobs, some have families, some have kids. So it can be very exhausting to write a review paper, just write in general. So try to just find some time in the day and try to focus only on that and don't think about anything else. Do what you can do in a very effective manner in that smaller time. The next section will be the materials and methodology. Now we are coming back to the original article again. So methodology is a very straightforward section. You write whatever materials and methodology that you used. What is the technique that you picked? And if you did a quantitative analysis, why did you do it? So write down that in your subsection and provide some references. Let's say you refer to your own methodology that you did in the previous work, refer to it. You refer to some other researchers' methodology, write a reference to it. If you do a qualitative analysis, why did you do it? Write a reference to it. So materials and methodology is the quickest to write, I would say, and is the easiest to write. So whenever I'm writing a paper, I always start with materials and methodology. This is my favorite section because I can accomplish it very quickly and I get the satisfaction that yes, I have done one section, I'm almost there. That's how you start. If you start with introduction, you're going to be stuck for a very long time because in an introduction section, you have to think a lot. You have to make sure that you write in a way that attracts everyone's attention. Next is results and discussion. This is where you plot down all your figures, your tables, your results from the experiment, and you describe all the important elements that are there, the interpretations, the opinions, and the effects of all the curves and the trend line and everything. And when you plot these results, when you write down these results, you have to make sure that you discuss about it, you criticize. Let's say I did this study, I got this observation. Why? If you got this observation, did anyone else also get this observation? If yes, then please refer. Please write down that XYZ also got this observation. If no, then why? Why do you think that this observation might have occurred? So you write down your own opinion about it. If possible, try to find out more articles with a similar pattern, similar trend, so that you can justify to the audience that, okay, whatever results I got is not so absurd. So you can always refer to the previous articles from other authors with similar observation. The last section is conclusion and the future work. This one is very important because in conclusion, you have to make sure you summarize all the things that were done in your study. And you have to write it in small sections. You start with introducing what you did, highlight the contributions, highlight the impacts of the result, and you write the future work. So one of the important trick I would say is maybe try not to write a lot of future works, because if you say that, okay, I did this experiment and I have this future work to do, that means the reviewer might feel that, okay, so your experiment isn't complete. Then why is this paper submitted? That's the reason it's better to minimize the future work that you have to do. Try to make sure that the conclusion is concise and precise to the point of what you got from this study. So let's summarize what we have in a paper. We have an introduction wherein you write the context, the research gap, and the aim of your study. Then you write down materials and methods section, wherein you write what materials were used, the preparation, the methodology, then statistical analysis if it was involved. Then comes the results, where you write the most important results first. Then you write other results, and last you write the least important results. And then you discuss all these results. So you can either write results and discussion as one section or results and discussion as separate section. When you discuss your results, you make sure that you compare it with the previous literature and you explain why you got these results. You can also generalize and conclude. You can give a conclusion at the end of what was done in this whole experiment. The final section is rejections. So we did all the hard work, you wrote all the paper, everything. You submitted to the journal. And as I mentioned before, the journal, let's say, rejected you at the editor stage. A lot of people think that your work is not good enough. But in reality, the case is totally different. In reality, the work is not what the editor is looking for. That means you have to change your approach. You have to change your journal selection. You select a suitable journal, check their scope, make sure that they want what you have written. If you submit to a journal that doesn't want, is not in the same field as what you have written, that means you're wasting your time. So it's very important that you know where you are submitting your paper to. Let's say the rejection is done at the editor stage. You submit to the journal and you get rejected within 1 week. The editor says that the language is not good enough. The cover letter didn't mention what you want or what the paper is, or the novelty. There is no novelty in this paper. In that case, you make sure that you check these 4 items first. Whenever an editor rejects from the desk itself, you check these 4 things. Check the language of the paper, check your cover letter, check if you have any novelty. If you don't have novelty, you try to write down in a way that proves that it has novelty. And you check your abstract, because an editor always checks the title and the abstract. If the paper gets rejected at the reviewer stage, then you might need to think about what the comments were given to the reviewer by the reviewers. Because at this stage, if the paper is rejected, that means the editor doesn't feel that the paper has enough novelty and the research is not complete. In this case, you have to make sure that you address the comments that were given by the reviewers and try to enhance your paper before you submit it to any other journal. And that comes to the end of my talk. Now in the next how many minutes that I have in my topic, in my speech, can I get as many questions as possible? Because I want people to ask me questions so that I can answer them very specifically and maybe share also my experience of what has happened or what I have seen while I have submitted my papers. So there are a lot of tips and tricks that I can give you, but I would hope that you can ask me so that it's much easier for me to tell everyone as well. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Heli. I hope I get a lot of questions.
All right, thank you, Dr. Apura, for explaining about the scientific paper and then the structure of the scientific paper. It is from the abstract, and then the introduction, materials and methods, results, and then until the conclusion. So now I would like to invite participants who want to ask Professor Paul Lokshaw or Dr. Apura. Please raise your hand and I will allow you to speak. So yeah, we can discuss directly because we still have time to discuss more about writing a scientific paper. All right, please do not hesitate to raise your hand. Otherwise, so while we are waiting for participants who want to discuss directly, here I got a direct message actually from participants. Okay, for the first question, how to come up with a novel idea for a research? So maybe Professor Paul Lokshaw or Dr. Apura, or yeah, you can both answer this question, please.
Okay, maybe I will start with my answer. What I did to come up with a novel idea. So the first thing, you have to make sure that you know which path or which directions your research want to be. Because once you go on the internet, you can find a lot of things. And when you find so many things, you always get lost and you don't know the direction that you want to go in. So I would suggest fix a direction. For example, when I was starting my PhD, after my meeting with Professor Shaw, we fixed a direction that, okay, I want to work on downstream of microalgae. I want to work on extraction of different compounds from microalgae. So that was fixed. Once I know this is fixed, then I was free to research into this direction. So what I did was I tried to read all the existing papers that we had. I tried to follow the protocol, try to do a little experimentation and understand whether it was working or not. If it was working, then can I optimize it? Can I make sure that I get a better result from the current studies and make sure that I can publish that? And also try to develop something new. When I say develop something new, doesn't have to be a new process. You can just change one unit process in between, and it is, you can always say it is new. Because let's say, according to my experiment, I worked on extraction of 3 components from microalgae. If you go into research, this methodology was used for a very long time. But what I did was I tried to implement little small units in between this process and try to optimize it further. And that's how I could prove that my process, my thing is novelty. So it's whatever research that you do, or whatever idea that you come up with, it's not that it's always going to be a Nobel Prize winning idea that you are sleeping, you wake up tomorrow, oh, I have an idea, I think it might give me a Nobel Prize. That happens to one person in 7 billion. So what we need is just the tip of that iceberg. We have the whole mountain built for us. We just need that small tip at the top. So that's how you can prove that you're novelty. Because now, with research being so complex and so fast forward, it's very tough to find 100% novel idea. You look for 1%. You have 1%, you can be happy with that.
All right, thank you, Dr. Apura. Yeah, actually, I need that miracle to come up with a novel idea. Hopefully, after I waking up in the morning and then suddenly I got the idea. It's very nice, I think. All right, please, Professor Paulokcio, if you have any opinion about how to come up with a novel idea.
Yes, actually, I'm quite agree with Dr. Apura. Yeah, because what Dr. Apura said, actually, you can see every day everybody have done so many research. Yeah, even until today we really cannot follow. Yeah, so what we can do is we need to understand our position. So just do whatever that we can. Yeah, just produce whatever we can and just change the 1%. Then slowly we can change a lot of things. Yeah, this is what we are doing right now. Yeah. Impossible, we are so tiny, we are so small. Impossible we can change the world. But what we can do is we can change little bit by little bit. Then at the end, we can do something big. All right, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Professor Shou. So even it's only 1%, it could make significant effect. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be a whole mountain here for a novel idea, but just look for what is the gap maybe that we can cover. Or maybe Dr. Haley, if you have, if you want to share how you come up with your novel idea.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I have a question, but now let me give my opinion related to how to get the novel idea from our research. What I did is trying to read some paper and then look out for the gap between the each of the paper. Try to get the lost information or lost thing that didn't conducted by the researcher to find out the thing that we can do to do kind of not really whole novel research, but still what kind of thing that we can do that differ from other researchers. So I totally agree that a small novelty that we can find from the other researchers will contribute to find out the novelty of the same research in the future. So the thing we have to do is trying to read what other researchers have done, and then trying to find out what another research that we can do and what kind of research that we can conduct to fill out the lost idea that didn't conducted yet by other researchers. But still, it is not easy even to find out that kind of idea from the others, because because we have to read as many as other publication, and we have also to know what kind of research that we interested in to do. So actually, what another question that come up in my mind related to this issue is some of participants in this workshop is come from undergraduate student who didn't conduct it yet, or who didn't experience by in writing a scientific manuscript. But I believe that they have ever been writing a scientific report, but not for publication. The thing that come up to my mind is how to find out how we take how to solve. I mean, how to solve the problem, because a scientific manuscript is a bit different. I will not say that totally different. A bit different with the undergraduate report for their final thesis. And sometimes students find out that the result that they got is has a different trend with the publication that they read, or even different with they are expecting in the first time. So how to get handle the situation when they want to write their result to get published, at least in the to get publication for the research. That's my question. And then the second question is, could you share us, especially how you are starting to keep struggling with writing, because writing still provide many difficulties on many levels, I believe. Even in formulating in finding the idea to research, and then how to even to discuss the result that we got, and then in the final section is how to write scientifically what we done with our research to get published and easier to to disseminate to other people. So is there any tricks that you can share to participants who are trying to find out in what kind of research they want to do, and what kind of patient of they what kind of research they interested in to do in the near future for their final thesis?
Yeah, please, Dr. Apurab or Professor Paul Show, regarding the question from Dr. Haley, because most of the audiences are students, undergraduate students, and they experience on writing thesis, and it's a bit different with the scientific manuscript. So how to tackle the difference, the gap between the scientific manuscript and the thesis. Please, maybe Dr. Apurab or Professor Show.
Yeah.
You will answer first. Yeah, you answer first.
Okay. Okay. So the most important thing I would say when you're writing, let's say there is as you mentioned, there is a gap between the report that you write in your undergrad and what is an original article or a journal, because it's very similar to what we do here as well. In my undergraduate, I also did an experiment and I wrote a report. But when we wanted to publish it in a journal, we had close to 5 revisions in a journal, which is usually very uncommon. But our journal article got 5 revisions because a lot of the data was either not significant with what is there in the literature review, or the paper structure was different. So one of the advice I would give is, when you are writing a report, make sure you visualize how the original article that you refer to was written. So let's say I'm writing a report because my university gave me a schedule. I write it in this format: introduction 100 words, then conclusion 50 words, like that I write. But that is only for that report. When you want to write it in an original article, it's very tough for you to just submit that same report as an original article, because every journal has a different criteria and a different word limit. So you have to make sure that when you convert, or when you paraphrase, or when you copy paste, let's say, you have to make sure that you follow the journal guidelines as well. And regarding the results, I would say it's all about how you can justify, because all results are results. Nothing is useless or waste or, let's say, invalid, because all the results that you get, you do the experiment perfectly, and that's how you get the result. So it's not that your results are wrong. Maybe they might be a bit different from what is in the literature review, but until and unless you publish your result, the others will never know that, oh, these results are also possible. That's how the research goes forward again. So whatever results you get, you make sure that you publish, although they might not be similar to what is in the literature review, but it's always better to have a different set of results as well.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Apura. Maybe additional opinion, information, Professor Shao?
Yes, thank you so much. Right, so in Dr. Haley's question, that she mentioned that in the thesis, maybe the journal paper, they have different format, different information to put in. Right, so I always advise my postgraduate students, right, because I believe undergrad students, they also need to submit their thesis before they graduate. So my encouragement to them, because I always appreciate student work, right, no matter it's undergrad or postgraduate work. So I will tell them, no matter it's a negative result or positive result, don't be afraid, right? Just write it down, because positive result is good to share with others that you're successful, but negative result is good to tell others that don't do the same things. You don't repeat the same results, because it's not the correct way of doing it. So in my opinion, to the students, right, don't afraid to write down your result in either in thesis or in journal paper. So because it's a good sharing knowledge to other people as well, so that people can learn from what you have done so far. I think this is a good point, to the students. So same to thesis, I believe like Dr. Apura said, in thesis there is some formatting in the thesis, but in journal there's a certain format. Please go through the guide for author, for journal. If the thesis in your university, you have, I believe in all the university, the different format of the thesis. You go through it, then you see what information to be included. Because I can see that is a comment given by the student, given by the audience as well. So they have difficulty in writing. Actually, same to me, because I also used to be undergrad. I also used to be postgraduate. So to writing, I think it's very challenging. Because actually my main language is not English, for information. I study from primary school is from Chinese, secondary school Chinese. Only university I learned something in English. So in order for me to learn in writing, is really challenging. So what I'm doing is actually I'm just how to say, it's not copying, but I rephrase people works, just let's say I doing the separation work, okay, people is doing using extraction of mango juice, but I'm trying to change the mango juice become a papaya juice. So this is how I do it. So from slowly I modify here, I learn something, the skill, because the structure is still there, like Dr. Apura said. So structure, we start with introduction, so methodology, then the research discussion, then come to conclusion. The structure is still there. The way of explanation is still there. So just that the method of writing, when you write one paper, second paper, I think third paper you're already familiar with that. Then slowly you can improve it. Then slowly you read more, then you will know each journal have different stuff. So for information, you can see Elsevier, the writing style is very straightforward. But when you come to nature, cell, science, right, the writing style is totally different. Yeah. So this is how you adapt it. Yeah. Slowly you will learn more and more. Then at the end, maybe you achieve whatever that you want. All right. So I think that's all from me. Thank you.
All right, so thank you. The most important thing is start writing. Yeah, so we never know how our writing skill until we start writing. And maybe Dr. Haley, the second question. I apologize because I forgot the second question. Did you ask the second question before?
Okay, actually,
or is it
directly,
it's all clear?
Yeah, it's already clear. Because it is related with the the data that different with the reference. Once the student get the different data, and then what the student have to do, and then Dr. Aprab and also Professor Shaw has already answered that the most important thing is just write it. Even we got the in our case is like a not positive result, but still the result we write can inspire the other, because the other researcher will know that when they are doing this, they will not conduct the same thing, because they will get the pale result. So still all the result will be the result, and then both of the result will give positive benefits for the reader. So starting to write and then keep struggling with writing.
All right. Yeah. So whatever the result, just write. Yeah. That's also what my former supervisor always told me, that even that's negative result, it's still the results. So yeah, do not be afraid to write. All right. We come to participants' question. There is from Sifatul Jannah. Sifatul Jannah, are you there? Maybe you want to ask directly. Sifatul Jannah. All right. Yeah, it's raining here. Oh, okay. Same here. It's also raining. Yeah, we got a lot of thunder lately. So yeah, I just read a question from Sifatul Jannah. I have a question about the most important thing in writing is the willingness. Yeah, how to get motivated to start writing. So please, Dr. Aprab or Professor Shaw.
It's a very common question. It's the biggest mystery. So we don't know how you get the motivation. But I would say what helped for me was structure, because I always believe in structure. If I can visualize the structure in my brain, what I want to write, how I want to write, then I can write. If it's all messy in my head, then I cannot write. Because there have been days where I had spent almost 2 weeks, but I wrote 0 words. And then there were days where within a week, I wrote the whole paper. So it all depends on if my head has structure of what I want to write, then I have the motivation to write. The second one I would say is, what worked for me was deadline. The willingness for someone else to push me to do something is what helped me. So let's say I promised my supervisor that I'm going to write 2 review papers and few journal articles. So in my mind, I know, okay, I only have to write 2 review papers. I have to write these journal articles. So what do? You start to accomplish it step by step, one by one section at a time, 100 words at a time. So I would say, don't look at the last end goal. You look at what is next. Next is just 100 words. Write down your abstract, or write down your introduction, or just frame in your mind how you want to write down the introduction. So the best answer to this is just see what helps you think and what helps you write, and try to do that. For example, in the early days, I found that if I stay in my room in front of my laptop, I cannot write. But if I go to my workstation that is assigned to me by the faculty, I can write, I can think about it. Maybe it's my mindset or it's in my mind, but that helped me. So I would go in the workstation and I would sit and I would write, because I know that if I stay in my room in front of my laptop, I'm not going to. So know what makes you write or what makes you move and do that. I think that's the biggest motivation. And as I said, deadline, always deadline works for everyone.
All right, thank you, Dr. Apura. Yeah, same for me. Yeah, if I'm sitting on my bed, I cannot write anything. All right, please, Professor Show.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Apura, for your honest opinion. Okay, just actually, in my humble opinion, that the motivation behind writing a paper actually is environment. Yeah, like Dr. Apura said, yeah, different environment. Yeah, just like I believe because in my teams, right, yeah, we have a lot of we start out with a small team first, yeah, for information, 1 PhD students, 2 PhD students. From that, right, I create a good environment for them. Yeah, I encourage them to publish, because I always tell them, yeah, when you publish paper, it will be easy to get job. Yeah, when you publish paper, then you will get a lot of citation in the future, because we don't know what will happen in the next part. But to enhance your CV is important for your postgraduate studies. So I encourage them. So I think from that on, so from the student onward, right? So we will have the culture, the environment that we will start to bring in this mentor-mentee program, right, to encourage the senior students to guide the junior students. From there on, then we have some motivation for the student to write on. Then actually, in the beginning, yeah, I quite agree with Dr. Apura that deadline is important, but I feel that deadline is not practical for all students, because some students they need deadline, some students they dislike deadline. So there is different approach for each individual student. So I will use this strategy to tackle each of the students. But anyhow, yeah, I think the culture and the environment is important to motivate them, to encourage the students, so they know the importance of publishing. From then they will move on. Yeah, this is something that I will learn. I learned throughout this period, but of course I'm still learning. There are some students still not easy. Yeah, some students still struggling. But anyhow, we help each other. Right? Thank you.
All right. So yeah, thank you. So deadline might work for one person, but might not work for the others. And also we have maybe to change our mindset, and then set the culture or the environment that can encourage us to write. Maybe from Dr. Haley, if you have any.
Interesting, because how we can motivate ourselves to write. Actually, the first thing we have to realize that by writing, we can share our idea to others. So even publish our idea is not only can be carried out by publication only, but still, I believe all of you have ever been published your idea in many ways, I think. But now starting to write and publish scientifically what your idea and what you have done in research by writing scientific manuscript, and try to publish by learning to not learning, but trying to publish in the a certain journal. And once you have succeed to publish your article, it will motivate all of you to write again and again. Yeah, so that is the first one. And then the second one, for I believe for everyone, deadline will will be another motivation, because in the deadline someone can poster their idea and get many new idea how to write something. Even it's we can I couldn't say properly, but in the deadline we can give some idea to write something. That the second one. And then the third one, this is I think the most important. try to find out the proper atmosphere to write. So just trying to know what learning style that you have when you write. Just find out the situation that can make you comfortable to write is important, or just trying to find out best environment to write, because once you have a bit interruption, so you will lose the idea that you write, because writing need like a continuously situation. What I have experienced by is when I get a short idea and then trying to write and get one paragraph, and then suddenly it interrupted, and then I lost idea and have to start again from beginning. But still, what I can say is try to write and then spend your time to write. Not necessary to spend many time, but consistently spend your time will help all of you to keep the idea for your writing. That's what I did for when I write something.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hali. So after we successfully write for the first time, maybe we can get addicted to write more and more articles. All right, let's move to another question from Anissa Nurjana. Do you want to ask directly to Professor Show or Dr. Apura? Anissa Nurjana, maybe?
Yeah, well,
all right, please.
First of all, thank you for the explanation, both Professor Shao and Dr. Apura. So personally, I always had a counter argument on everything that I wrote, which makes me over-explain my idea, because I fear that I'm not explain my idea properly and how to deliver my idea profoundly without being explaining too much, since there is word limitation in scientific paper. And of course, you mentioned, especially in abstract and introduction part, because you mentioned you have to make it as captivating as possible. But the question is how? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Anissa. Please, Professor Show or Dr. Akbar.
Yeah, so the best way to make sure that you don't overthink or over-explain is try to see what other people have written it as. For example, I have the exact same tendency. I tend to over-explain because I am not sure what level of explanation is required for the audience. So I start with scratch, with everything from the beginning. But after I started writing and I progressed, I understood that there is a certain level of expertise that comes with writing more and more. So you know, and you will understand when to stop or how much explanation is required. When you start out, I would say the best thing is you read other papers. You try to see their discussion and result, and you see up to what extent they have clarified or explained a result. You might want to stick to the same level. Let's say someone explains an observation or any result they got in 2 lines. If they compare it to 2 studies that were done previously, you do the same thing. You look for 2 studies from your previous similar experiment and result, and you try to explain with maybe 2 to 3 sentences, not more than that. So when you write these 2 to 3 sentences, make sure it gets all the meaning of what you wanted to explain from before. That doesn't mean you have to write from scratch everything. You just have to give a very small explanation. So the best thing I would say is after you write these 2 sentences, then you try to find a flow in it. So you have a leverage of maybe writing 1 sentence before, 1 sentence after. So accordingly, you can frame your paragraph so that you don't over-explain as well, and you give very small details which are good enough for the audience. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Apura. Please, Professor Show.
Okay, thank you, Anissa, for the questions. Right, actually, a lot of us, right, we have over explained some things because we don't know how much the reader want to understand. So what we can do normally is we have a good structure. So I always tell my students that, let's say you have a graph, right? The first sentence, what you will do is you will just say, give an introduction of the graph. Then second sentence, you will expand of give an explanation of the graph information. Then you will give the trend. Then third sentence, give the trend. Then fourth sentence, you will give the justification. Then the fifth sentence, you will have a conclusion of the graph. So not much. Yeah, I think 5 paragraph for 5 sentence for a paragraph is more than enough already to expand a figures, yeah, a table. So this is normally what I encourage to do. Same to these introductions. Yeah, a lot of students trying to write introductions long. Maybe they write in 5 or 6 paragraph. In fact, a good introductions, right, 3 to 4 paragraphs is more than enough already. Let's say the first paragraph we write about introduction. Second paragraph, write about the history, yeah, what have people have done. Then the third one, to write about what you're trying to do, yeah. Then the fifth one, what you plan to do for this whole paper. Yeah, this is the whole thing is more than enough for a paper already. You don't need to write so much about the basic information. Like let's say I'm doing my karaoke. You don't need to write what is my karaoke, right? Because a lot of people already well documented, yeah, what is my karaoke. So because you know who is your audience. Your audience is about your audience is about scientists, yeah, about industry. So you write in the perspective of the reader. So what reader want to know, you just write it. You don't need to write for a perspective for students in the primary school or students in secondary school, because they are different level of paper, yeah. So you always think of the reader perspective, then from there you will know what information should be included in the paper or in the journal. Right. I think that's all for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we have to have a good structure of a paragraph from the first sentence, what thing that we would like to write, and then the second one, the third, until the last sentence in the paragraph, because cutting words also not easy. All right, maybe Dr. Haley to.
Okay, actually, yeah, structure for scientific landscape. So the thing we have to put concern is just following the structure, and then try to focus in each section. For example, when we write for introduction will describe from general to a specific one, but still we have to put straightforward to what we are talking about. So let's say the example of Professor Shaw mentioned that when we are talking about microalgae, we can start from a microalgae which is specific for our strain, and then straightforward, and then go through to the relevant research. So this relevant research will directly describe also what kind of novelty of our research are. So here is the introduction is. Then how we best describe the explanation from for the result. Just provide the result, and then give a brief introduction to the result that we found, and then continue with the interpretation with the data, and then closing it with the discussion that comparing our result with other relevant results. That's for the discussion session. I think that's the strategy to write in the result explanation.
All right, thank you, Dr. Haley. Again, it needs more practice to be able to write concisely. Let's move to the next question from Oti Rofiawati. Are you there? Okay, Oti. Oh, I'm having class. All right. Let's read her question. How many references should we have in writing paper so we are confident enough to submit our paper? How many books or journal research or references? Please, Professor Shaw or Dr. Apura.
For original article or your experiment paper, I would say not more than 50. Try to limit to 50. And if possible, try to avoid books and even any other websites. Because what happens is when we are writing an introduction, we try to find a fact and we try to link it to a website. So that you should try to avoid. Maybe try to find out the same fact in any journal article if there was any, if possible. And for review paper, I would say roughly more than 100, but not more than 200. It depends. You need to check the guideline as well. A lot of journals actually have a guideline for their papers. For example, there is Bioresource Technology who has guideline of only 50 references for journal article and no more than 150 for 100, no more than 100 for review article. So when they say no more than 100 references, what they mean is they want your paper to be as novel and as condensed as possible. Sometimes what happens is a lot of researchers try to write a table and they include like 50 references in that table. So that's the reason that they want to avoid. They want to make sure that whatever papers they are submitted to their journal are condensed enough. So whatever is important, you write, you refer. Whatever is not important, you don't refer. And try to optimize your references as much as possible. I wouldn't say minimize, because in some cases you have to include those references. So yeah. So the thumb rule is around 50 per journal and 100 to 150 for review article.
All right, so for journal around 50, and maybe again check the guidelines from the journal, because maybe it specifies different number of references that you have to cite, for example. And maybe Professor Show?
Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, so basically, in my opinion, right, I'm personally not really fancy with these references or citations, yeah, because like Dr. Apro said, we might optimize, yeah, because we cannot say we have 100 references, then we can confident to publish, to submit a paper already. So we might optimize to utilize, because nowadays a lot of researcher, just to let you know, currently, because I'm editor from some journal, I can see a lot of reviewer, a lot of scientists, researcher, they are very crazy about their citations. So what they are doing during their reviewing process, they will ask you to cite their paper in when they're giving comment. So this is something that in my opinion, right, you try to avoid this problem, because you only can cite something that you really understand, you really relevant to your paper. So this is something that as a scientist, as a researcher, we should practice on this, because we don't want to create a culture that you have more citation, then you have more references, then you confident, then to mean that you have put more effort, then you have easy to publish. So we really don't want to create this kind of environment, give out wrong perception or wrong impression to the others. So in my opinion, that just put whatever that is relevant, put whatever that is related to your journal paper or related to your result. Just put that, And also, you can see a lot of journal, right? They start to restrict, They don't want to. They dislike you to simply put in the references in the paper. They have the limit, like we know Irish technology. They limit 50 references. They limit 100 for review paper. They don't want you simply to put in, because once you simply put in, then you will create a not good environment or not good role model for others to learn, So this is something that I would like to share. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Professor Show. So more references doesn't mean that your article is easy to publish, but try to put any reference that are really relevant to your research or your article. From your experience, how about the reference? How about this reference, Dr. Haley?
Actually, I don't have many experience as Professor answered Dr. Okra. But what I'm thinking is that put concern on the guideline to see the requirement to publish in the certain journal. So make sure to to write the your manuscript as the guideline. And then the second thing is put the citation that relevant with your result only. So because this this paper will support your result. So there's only two, two strategy. Just first make sure which journal that you want to publish your paper, and then see the guideline to make sure the requirement. So this is the most important thing, because each journal has its own guidelines. So we can say that many citation will cover this journal, but other journal might be different, I guess. And then the other is try to find out in many journal which paper that can support our result. So put concern on the relevant research to support our explanation in our paper. That's all.
All right, thank you, Dr. Haley. So still stick with the guidelines from the journal that you want to publish your article to. All right, let's move to question from Anissa Moza. Are you there, Anissa Moza?
Suara saya terdengar.
Yeah, please, Anissa Moza.
Okay, I have a question regarding writing a paper. And one of my problems is creating a coherent paragraphs in the introduction section. And sometimes I feel like it is coherent enough, but actually there's still a lot of missing parts. Are there any tips to solve this kind of problem?
All right, thank you, Anissa. So how to write a coherent paragraph? Please, Dr. Apura.
I think it's better if you put an outline. Make an outline of what you want to write your introduction as. Let's say your topic is microalgae and you're talking about biodiesel. So maybe it's better to stick to the same field. You can start with conventional fuel or conventional diesel, and why microalgae and biodiesel from microalgae. So the most important thing is, I would say, outline, make a small outline of what you want to write in your introduction, and make sure that there is a flow. It shouldn't be as if that each paragraph is individually has its own meaning, but there is no flow at all. It's always better to have a flow, and it's preferable if you can start with the bigger picture and then slowly condense it down to the smallest scenario that you're dealing with in your paper. So yeah, I would say these two are the biggest things for that.
All right, thank you, Dr. Apura. So outline might help you to build your paragraph so it can be coherent enough. So please, Professor Shio.
Yes, yes, correct. Yeah, actually, outline is the most important thing. But whenever you do your experiment or you do your writing a paper, right? So with the outline, like you know, the connection between the first and the second and the third and following one. So with the proper outline, also with proper planning, then you know what is to be included. Yeah, what not to be included. Because I believe a lot of students, my students, right, they done a lot of work. Yeah. But they tend to put everything inside a paper, but something is not related one. So what you can do is you separate them accordingly. Maybe you can divide them into two papers. So with the proper outline, then you can have proper connection to each other. Then from then you know how to work on. Yeah. And also another my suggestion to you guys is you can go through some published paper. I believe some of the work, right, you done, some people already done it almost similar. So you can see what they have included, because they are the successful case. Yeah, they are the successful to get published. So you learn from them, what included, yeah, what not to included. From then you know how the relationship between how to put the content accordingly. From then you will know this is a successful case. Yeah, you should learn from them. Then to include it as well as to in the day. Yeah, I think that's all from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Professor Shou. Yeah, sometimes we are tempted to put everything in the paper And that's why cutting words and make it concise is more difficult later. And Professor Xiao also give us another trick that we can learn from other previous works and see how they communicate their result, and then how what thing they write in the published paper. So maybe from Dr. Haley.
Okay, thank you. Actually, the first thing that difficult in writing is how to write the story, our manuscript. So the first thing is think about story and then try to make an outline, and then from this outline will guide us to write systematically our idea, because coherency means how we make this paragraph will be unity one from the first and then into the next paragraph. So make sure the sentence of the paragraph put the hint at the content of the next sentences. The hint that we put in the the previous paragraph will help this paragraph will make this paragraph coherent from the first into the next paragraph. So we will see the unity of the idea that we write in each paragraph. So, and then make sure to put one idea in each paragraph. So this will also help to make the unity of the paragraph that we made. I guess this also will help to write coherently in our writing.
All right. Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Haley. So make sure that you pay attention to the story and the flow of the paragraph. So so each sentence doesn't stand by itself. Like there is a flow between one sentence to another sentence. All right. Thank you, Anissa, for your question. And next question from Louis. Louis, are you there? Okay, he wants me to read the question. Okay, it's okay, Louis. I personally have read many articles that somehow use some complex words to explain their idea. My question is it important or significant to use complicated words? Because it sounds wow. So please, Dr. Abram or Professor Xiao.
It depends on individual's English level, because you might think it's wow, but the person who wrote that paper, it might be a normal word that he or she uses in a daily life. So it depends that it's better that you stick to your level and make sure that you are confident with what you're presenting, rather than trying to find a better word online, but you are not confident with its usage. So I would suggest once you start writing and as you publish more papers, you can get more familiarized with new words, or you can know their synonyms so that you can write or find a better alternative word for it. But if you're starting out, I would say try to write simple, short sentences. Don't try to write a lot of long, complex sentences, because what happens is if your grammar is not exactly to the level of writing a long sentence, you will make a lot of errors in between. So my suggestion always is you try to stick to short sentence and simple sentence. Don't try to write very out of the box words, and maybe it will confuse you later on when you're reading, because you will have to search again online to see what the meaning of that word is. So I would suggest, stick to your own strength.
All right. So if we use complicated words, will it make our paper have a higher quality level?
I don't think so, because sometimes writing complicated words might lose its meaning. You want to make sure that whoever is reading that paper can understand. And when you write such complicated words, let's say a normal undergraduate students cannot understand that paper. So you lose the main essence of why you wrote that paper. You want people to read it. If you want people to read it, you keep yourself in their shoe and you try to read your own paper and see if you can understand. If you can understand without searching for any word out on Google, then okay, then it's perfect. If you cannot, then you know that you can just stick to what you know, stick to your strength, and write as close to as how you can read and understand it.
All right, thank you, Dr. Apura. So make sure that your article is readable. Please, Professor Show.
Right, yeah. Actually, I'm quite agree with Dr. Apura. Yeah, try to use simple English. Yeah, don't use bombastic word. Yeah, because like Dr. Apura say, if you try to use bombastic word or try to use complicated word, right, until the level that the reader also cannot understand, then from the leader they don't understand, they will lose the interest. Then your paper will become meaningless. Yeah, no one will like to read your paper. So try your best to keep it simple, keep it short. Yeah, so everybody can understand. Even because I always tell my students, right, no matter in the presentation or no matter in the writing a paper, try to keep it simple as possible, because you don't know the level of your readers. Yeah, because some reader may be from other country, their English not good. Some reader is from one's country, their English also not very good. Yeah, so try to keep it as simple as possible so that you can attract more attention, attract more readers. Yeah, this is my only advice. Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Professor Show. So make sure that keep it short, simple, and so other readers will understand what you want, what message that you want to deliver to the readers. And Dr. Haley, maybe based on your experience. Sorry, it's still mute.
Yeah, let me share what I'm experienced by complicated words, so complicated sentences. So I have ever been right in complicated words, and then it takes many sentences to write a short idea, and then I get noticed from the reviewer that please make simple sentence so everyone can easily to understand what the idea that you want to deliver. So yeah, I'm quite agree with the idea, what the opinion from Professor Shaw. So also the complicated sentences. It doesn't mean it will. It doesn't guarantee that our writing will get easier to be accepted to publish, because the most important thing is how we deliver our idea, so everyone who read our paper can easily get what we want to deliver. So making it simple and then but still straightforward to the idea that we want to deliver. So and then about the word that we can choose, the strategy is just read as many as papers, so we can know how people try to express the idea with different expression. So we'll learn how to express also our idea as well.
All right, thank you, Dr. Haley. Yes, so by reading other papers can also help us to improve our vocabulary, and then we can also learn how people or how others communicate their research, so it can be readable. Yeah, sometimes we are tempted to look up to the thesaurus and then find the synonyms for words, and then maybe it turned out to be meaningless, or yes, better to stick with our knowledge, yeah, English knowledge, and then try to read many publications as well, so we can have can have a list of vocabularies that we can use in our article. All right. There is no more question in the chat box, but I would like to invite participants because we have still time. If you still have any questions to Professor Show or Dr. Apurab or Dr. Haley, anyone? All right. Otherwise, we will move to the second session. But before that, I would like to say thank you to Professor Show and then Dr. Apura for your availability, for your explanation about writing in scientific paper. It's really helpful for us to better to improve our writing skill, and I found this our discussion this afternoon was very interesting. And I see also participants are now, I think, eager to write scientific article. So thank you again, Professor Shaw and Dr. Aburaf, and see you in the next workshop. Before that, I would like to invite other participants to open up your camera because we will have a photo session. So please, if you have no trouble with your internet connection, please open your camera because it's probably not every day we can see Professor Show and Dr. Apura. All right. All right. Okay, thank you, Febrian and Oti and Sadina. All right. Maybe Pak Hafiz will help us to take the picture.
Okay. We have like what, 3 layers? Okay. First layer. Everyone ready? There is some people still opening up their camera, so we'll wait for a few minutes, few seconds. Okay, right. 3, 2, 1, cheese. Okay. Wait a minute. Right. Next layer. Yeah, where did I put that thing? Okay. 3, 2, 1, cheese. Okay, this one is the last layer. 3, 2, 1, cheese. Okay, I think that should be enough, Mrs. Vidya.
All right, thank you, Pak Hafiz, and I can see Dr. Helisan there. All right, we really, once again, we really appreciate Professor Show and then Dr. Apura. Maybe you have a closing statement or closing remarks, Professor Show, first.
Right. Okay. Actually, nothing from me yet. Because we still have another workshop on 9th of November. Right. Looking forward to see you guys there. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Show. See you again in the next workshop. Please, Dr. Apura, closing statement or closing remarks for.
I would say just that don't be scared to write, and when you are writing, the most important thing is to write the first 100 words. Once you write those words, you know that you can write the paper. But before you do that, you will always waste a lot of time. So try to force yourself to start writing, and the more you write, the more you will understand the basics and what is required in the future, because everyone learns the hard way. There is no manual for it. So yeah, that's all from my side.
All right, thank you, Dr. Apura. So don't overthink, just write. So you know how your writing skill, and you can improve because yeah, you can improve in the next writing or in the next practice. You can always improve. Thank you once again, Dr. Apurah, Professor Show. If you still have any other agenda, you are welcome to leave the Zoom meeting, because we will have a second session of coaching clinic. There will be coaching clinic, or if you still have, if you have spare time, you can also join with our coaching clinic. But if you still have any agenda, you are welcome to leave the Zoom meeting. Thank you, Professor Show and Dr. Apurah. And yeah, we